Well, hello and welcome to Inside the Artist Studio. I am at a different studio today because I just love to go different places, I guess. But I am here with Victoria Eubanks. Hello, Victoria.
Hello, hi Rose.
Hi. Oh, the marvels of technology. So Victoria, I have known for a number of years and started out as an admirer of her work. Victoria works in a number of mediums, but what really caught my imagination was her work with encaustic. And that might be kind of a new term for some people. And so I'm going to just jump right in and have you tell us what encaustic is.
Well, this is my favorite topic, so you'll have to go time out if I launch. Encaustic is an ancient medium. It actually is from the Greek word enkaustikos,
Mm,
which means to heat or burn in. So I'm painting with molten wax. There's pigment in the wax, and it's warm when I brush it on, and I fuse in between each layer with a torch or a heat gun. And so there's a lot of heat involved in this. And my work is a decidedly modern take on this ancient medium, but I'm conscious of all that good, juicy history that comes with it. Does that
right.
help?
It does help. And I think when we, kind of dive in and look at the actual pieces that we're going to have for our Contemporary Realism Now show, it'll maybe make more sense. But I think ultimately you have to get in front of this work because it's more three-dimensional in a sense. I think, I mean, it's a flat surface generally, but there's that.
Well, yeah, wax plays with light in a
Mm,
different way. So that is the beauty of it, is the science of it actually is the light comes and goes through and bounces back to your eye, which doesn't happen with any other media where the light is more absorbed. So
right.
that is why people are drawn to encaustic, because of that luminosity. Pretty fun. Mother Nature does that. Can't claim it, but it's pretty cool.
Well, and so I think to that point, what we're seeing, we're actually like paintings are made up of layers. Unless I think you're a watercolorist, but still there are wash layers in that, but you don't see them as apparently in any other medium except for encaustic,
I
right? Because
agree.
the layers are kind of suspended.
They are. They are. It's the wax is, like I said, it goes on molten, heated, and then it dries. And so there's some really wonderful things that happen in that whole process. And it's fun. I can control it to a point, and then the piece controls the rest of it.
Yeah. I feel like you have some videos about this, the process.
I might.
Okay.
I've occasionally posted some. I'm not a great videographer, nor am I a great in front of the camera girl, but it's if you I could direct people if I needed to.
Yeah. Well, if people follow your Instagram, they can find.
Maybe, yeah, my website's on there and there
Okay.
might be some links. I'll have to go make sure they're updated,
Okay.
Rose, but
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think this is such a, it's such a unique medium that we could try and explain it all day long, but when you really see it in action, it's just kind of cool. I don't know. I think it's fun.
It's cool. It's very
Yeah.
fun.
Hey, let's take a look at the work that we're going to have in the show. And I would love it if you could screen share with us.
I'll see if I can do that. There you go.
Ta-da!
Ta-da.
Nice. Okay, so Messy Nest. And this one, okay, I think you just art has to be seen in person. So this is a good like teaser, but this one in particular, I remember you saying to me, well, I have this one that's this messy nest and there are a bunch of chairs. And when I first saw this image online, I'm like, I don't see chairs. I don't know what you're talking about, woman.
And there they are, little
And
tiny
there,
children.
there they are. So I don't love to spend too much time talking about the technical side, but would you talk a bit about the layering of how this piece came together?
Sure, sure. Many of my pieces have something on the panel first. Generally I'm working on a cradled board, which is a wood panel. And my first layer might be a totally different medium. It might be pictures put down and glued down. It might be some scribbles I have on the background. So I did start with a blown out image of sky and foreground with this one and added wax on top of that. And the wax that I've added, sort of blues and greens to sort of make that horizon and give it a place to be. And then nests show up in a lot of my work. It's about hearth and home and all that messy stuff that comes with a home, but I want it to be welcoming. Chairs, there's a place for everybody. There's a roof over my head. It might be messy, but it's a nurturing environment kind of thing. So it's very loose, not really as directly representational as some folks' work. But the chairs are there sort of to say, come on in, take a seat. Everybody's welcome. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
It makes wonderful sense. And, I think this is something that with the contemporary realism now, that I'm really trying to achieve here with this group of artists that are coming together for this show is that contemporary realism is so broad. But we have a very thriving community here in the Western United States. And just because these artists aren't happening to work in LA or Manhattan, there's some really incredible, thoughtful work going on with just these really great experimental and multimedia surfaces that are happening here. And so, using something that is encaustic, that is a very, very old medium, and bringing it into modern context is just what excites me a lot about your work.
Thank you. I really enjoyed your expanded explanation of what realism is. And I think I like that inclusiveness of that. So good on you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? In a way, when you spell everything out, I feel like those are the paintings in a collection that you stop seeing after a while.
Mhm.
But the ones that, like this one, I think a lot of people can come bring their own baggage to, and
Good.
say, yes, this is my house, or I wish this were the house I had, or things like that.
That was my mom's house.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right. I love that, a chair for everyone, though. That's yeah, that's a really wonderful thing. Hey, let's take a look at another piece that we're getting in this group, this body of work.
Okay. Let's pull this guy up.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, I
This
love this.
this is bird brain. And there it is, another nest.
Mhm.
Um, and this one can be interpreted in lots of ways. Again, this ancient medium just helps some of this stuff just comes to the forefront. And the idea of what's going on in your brain, what's going on, are you daydreaming? Are you dreaming at night? Stuff is always happening. That home base nest thing is part of this. I don't ever intend to have a specific meaning for my art, but I'm hoping that it's interesting enough and human enough that people will connect with it a little bit, will notice it, will go, oh, look at that. That's really different. And that's what I'm hoping to do with bird brain. And bird brain is not meant to be a derogatory thing at all. It's actually, here we're all daydreamers. We're all thinking all the time. And
Mhm.
that might be what it looks like.
Hey, tell me about the image of the figure in the background, because you play with different ways of bringing imagery into your work.
I do. This is an old medical engraving that I've taken and played around with and taken off the letters that were, tell you what you're looking at, and just enlarged it hugely so
Mhm.
that we actually see those engraving marks, those marks with the engraving tool. But I really liked it. I liked the profile. I liked the eyes looking off into the distance. And um, I think that the human head, the human face is so relatable somehow that I couldn't help myself. I had to use
It's
it.
kind of fun that it was an old medical drawing
Mhm.
or etching that you have now, in a sense, said, okay, here's what's really going on inside the brain.
Right,
It's just this mixture of,
right, right.
you can come up with all your fancy terms, but here's how it really works.
Exactly, exactly. So the fact that I actually took off some of those Latin references on this guy,
Mhm.
yes, thank you. You got it. Yay.
Yay, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Hey, let's look at another one too.
Okay, let me pull up another guy. Um, Here we go. All right.
Ooh, I love this one.
So this one is perhaps a little more oblique. I call this one writing stories.
Mhm.
And again, you can see that yummy background and all that translucency of maybe something natural, something in Mother Nature in the background.
Yeah.
And then this real scribbly kind of nesty thing that's happening in the foreground. And again, the feathers are birds show up in my work, so feathers are sort of a nod to that freedom of flight, but also as a old writing implement that you could actually tell your stories. You could write them down. And it's not literal. This is just stuff that kind of comes through my head when I'm working, and I'm working intuitively. And if I'm in a good, in the zone thing, things like this happen. And I think this is a lovely piece. I like the scribble. I like the handness of the scribble, and I like that it looks like a nest. And the whole idea of telling stories that we relate through our experiences that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. How many layers of wax are
Yeah.
on this piece that we're looking at?
That's a great question, and I do get asked that often, and I don't have a good answer. There are, I mean, some of these are an eighth of an inch thick or more, so that could be 30 layers of wax.
Oh,
I mean, I'm putting it on one little brush stroke at a time, so it does build up, and more is better in my world.
oh,
So some of this real thick work has multiples, 30, 40 layers of wax on it. The
oh.
piece gets heavy after a while with the accumulation of the wax, but it's all that lusciousness that I like. And it's kind of like we are layers and layers and history, and what happened the most recently is what's on top, but there's a lot of juicy history underneath all of that.
Is there, so with the wax,
Mhm.
and the layers of it, is there things, conditions that people need to be aware of when they display these pieces?
Sure, sure. You would treat this like you would any fine work of art. You don't want it in a direct sunlight,
Mhm.
but you wouldn't put a fine oil painting or a fine watercolor in a direct sunlight. It will not melt in your home. The wax melts at 140, and I tell my clients that if it's 140, leave the art on the wall and get out of your house because there's a
You've
bigger
got
thing
bigger
going on.
problems. Yeah.
So I don't want to be glib about it because
Yeah.
they're good to take care of it. Both ends of that temperature spectrum, when it's really, really cold, it could get brittle. And if you knocked it against something, it could chip off. If it's really, really hot, it's vulnerable to, dents or fingerprints or that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
those two extremes where we really don't live is where it's most vulnerable. But these things, some of our ancient encaustic paintings have been around for well over 2,000 years. So I know that they're durable and they last.
Mhm.
And, we treat them kindly and they'll hold up.
Yeah, nice. Now, I know there's one more piece. We're going to get some smaller works from you.
Mhm.
There's one more piece that I would love for you to share.
Are we
Uh,
talking about the flag?
we're talking about the flag.
All right, let's bring up the flag.
Hmm.
There we are. There
Nice.
we are. So this
Okay.
piece, yeah, what do you want to talk about here, Rose?
Well, you know what? So this piece you actually created for a show. I'd love for you to tell me about that. And then, yeah, let's talk about it a little bit.
Yes, this is a piece that's 18 by 18, so it's not tiny, but it's not a real giant
Yeah.
piece. And the show that I created it for was out at the Arvada Center with Colin Parsons, and I think the name of the show was something like Art in Conflict. And my art tends to be much more upbeat than full of conflict. So it was a tough thing for me to wrap my head around the concept of this show. But I did a couple of pieces and they got in. And this one, of course, people think of Jasper Johns as his famous flag
Yes.
was a wax piece or had wax in it. And this wasn't meant to be an ode to Jasper Johns. It was meant to be just my own personal statement on the conflict that we are going through today with our government and sort of, always at odds with other other governments and within itself. And I just felt that this is called Fallen Stars, and it seems like some of the decorum, some of the politeness, some of our humanity has sort of gone by the wayside, and this was my answer to that. And it, it's an interesting piece because it is dimensional. You can see the voids where
Yeah.
the stars used to be as the stars are tumbling down. And
Mhm.
again, people can relate to this any way they want to. I was just making a, gosh, can't we be nicer to each other kind of statement with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Um, but the idea of the conflict of art can be a pretty powerful conduit to
Mhm.
start a conversation sometimes. So
Yes.
maybe this piece will continue to start some conversations.
Well, I certainly hope so. And I mean, I don't know if our world is any more or less violent than it's ever been since inception, I
Mhm.
would say. Um,
Yeah, we
but
just didn't have instant messaging way back then.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, right. But you know what? I really love and embrace pieces like this in all the shows that I work on because, well, I've often said to people, the worst thing you can say to me about a show I curated is, "Oh, that was nice." I'm like, "Oh, shoot, I failed." Because I really do want, like, I don't want people to feel agitated or confronted about every single thing, but I think it's nice if you have pieces like this in the show that, hey, you know what? This is definitely Victoria's concept and thinking through something that was on her mind. And I think it's on a lot of people's minds. So yeah, I'm very happy to have this in the show and can't
Yeah,
wait to
if
see it in the
it brings
context.
out somebody's thoughtfulness, then yay, yay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, Victoria, I really appreciate having some time with you.
It's a
And
pleasure, Rose.
yeah, and so there will be some other pieces in the show as well. So yeah, we will be hanging this show the early in January and our openings, and we're going to have some conversations and talks and lots of events coming up with this show. And so please visit theartsoul.com for more information. And you can also look at Gallery 1261 as well. Victoria, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rose. Thanks for even thinking about me for this show.
Oh my gosh. Longtime fan of your work and okay, full disclosure, I just bought a piece of Victoria's because I just can't seem to visit an artist studio without bringing something home for myself. So anyway, Christmas
Thank
early
you.
over at my place.
Thank you.
But yeah, yeah. Anyway, thank you, Victoria. Happy holidays, and we'll look forward to seeing you in January.
Perfect. Thank you, Rose.